What if I told you that some of the most horrific crimes in human history might have been visible on a brain scan years before they happened? Every year, roughly 25 to 50 serial killers are active in the United States alone. That's someone who has killed at least 3 people, with cooling off periods between murders. But here's what's truly unsettling. Modern neuroscience can now peer inside the minds of these individuals. And what we've discovered challenges everything we thought we knew about human nature. Are serial killers born with different brains? Or does life shape them into monsters? The answer isn't what you'd expect, and it might make you question the very nature of free will itself. Today, we're diving deep into the most disturbing question in neuroscience. Can we predict a killer before they kill? This is a scientific investigation, not a glorification. The families of victims deserve answers, and perhaps understanding these minds might help us prevent future tragedies. Okay, before we begin our journey into the darkest corners of human nature, let's see what we'll uncover in this investigation. First, we'll examine what actually happens inside the brain of a serial killer, the physical differences that scientists have documented. Then, we'll investigate how childhood trauma and environment might literally rewire the developing brain. We'll confront the uncomfortable questions this research raises about justice, free will, and what it means to be human. And finally, we'll explore what this knowledge means for the future, both the promise and the peril of understanding the criminal mind. But I have to warn you, some of what we're about to discuss will challenge your fundamental beliefs about human nature. Are you ready to see what science has discovered about the mind of a killer? Let's find out.
As a serial killer may be at work.
San Francisco for the man known as the Zodiac Killer.
That some or all of these cases might be connected and that a serial killer...
Believe me, if I started murdering people, there'd be none of you left.
To understand what makes a killer's brain different, we first need to understand how a normal brain creates, well, a normal person. Your brain right now is performing an incredible balancing act. In the front, your prefrontal cortex, think of it as your brain's CEO, is making rational decisions, controlling impulses, and planning for the future. Deep inside, your amygdala is constantly scanning for threats, processing fear, and triggering emotional responses. It's like your brain's alarm system. But here's the crucial part. These regions don't work alone. They're connected by millions of neural pathways, constantly communicating. When you see someone in pain, multiple brain regions activate simultaneously. Your mirror neurons fire, literally mirroring their experience. Your anterior cingulate cortex processes their emotional state, and your prefrontal cortex decides how to respond. This complex system takes decades to fully develop. A child's brain is incredibly plastic, meaning it changes based on experience. Every interaction, every trauma, every moment of love or neglect literally rewires the developing neural networks. In a healthy brain, this creates what we call empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. It's what stops most of us from hurting people. It's what makes us human. But what happens when this delicate system goes wrong? What if the CEO of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, doesn't develop properly? What if the alarm system becomes hyperactive or completely shuts down? What if the pathways that create empathy never form correctly? For decades, these were just theoretical questions, but in the 1990s, something changed. Advanced brain imaging technology gave us the ability to peer inside living brains. And what scientists discovered was both fascinating and terrifying. They found that the brains of violent criminals looked different. Not just psychologically different, physically different. The question was no longer whether killer brains were different. The question was, were they born that way? The answer would challenge everything we thought we knew about criminal behavior. In 2005, neuroscientist Dr. James Fallon made a discovery that would haunt him forever. He was studying the brains of psychopathic killers when he noticed something odd about one particular scan. The prefrontal cortex showed almost no activity. The areas responsible for empathy and moral reasoning were essentially dark. This brain belonged to someone with a severe antisocial personality disorder, someone capable of violence without remorse. But here's the twist. The scan was his own. Fallon's discovery wasn't isolated. Studies of violent criminals have revealed a consistent pattern. Up to 50% show significant abnormalities in their prefrontal cortex, the brain's control center. But the differences don't stop there. The amygdala, which processes fear and emotional responses, often shows reduced activity. It's as if their brain's alarm system is broken. Even more disturbing, many show abnormalities in the corpus callosum, the bridge connecting the brain's two hemispheres. This affects communication between logical thinking and emotional processing. At the chemical level, their brains produce different cocktails of neurotransmitters. Lower levels of serotonin, which regulates mood and impulse control, alter dopamine pathways that affect reward and motivation. Dr. Adrian Raine, a leading researcher in this field, has studied hundreds of murderers' brains. His findings are consistent. Violent criminals have measurably different brain structures. Their brains, Raine explains, show a 14% reduction in prefrontal gray matter. This is the area that puts the brakes on aggressive behavior. But here's where it gets complicated. Dr. Fallon, despite having a psychopath brain, has never committed a violent crime. He's a successful professor, husband, and father. Studies suggest that 1 in 25 people may have similar brain abnormalities, yet most never hurt anyone. So if having a killer brain doesn't automatically make you a killer, what does? The answer might lie not in biology alone, but in the experiences that shape us from our very first breath. What if I told you that nearly 70% of serial killers experienced severe childhood abuse? That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. And modern neuroscience is finally explaining why. A child's brain is like wet cement. Every experience leaves an impression. Every moment of terror, every act of violence, every absence of love physically reshapes the developing neural networks. Chronic stress floods the developing brain with cortisol and other stress hormones. Over time, This toxic bath literally damages brain tissue, particularly in areas responsible for empathy and impulse control. Children who experience severe trauma show measurable differences in brain structure. Their amygdalas become hyperactive, constantly scanning for threats. Their prefrontal cortex develops more slowly, struggling to regulate emotions. But the damage goes even deeper. Trauma doesn't just change the brain. It changes how genes are expressed. This is called epigenetics. The experience of abuse can literally turn certain genes on or off. Researchers have identified early warning signs known as the McDonald triad: bedwetting beyond the typical age, animal cruelty, and fire setting. While not all children showing these signs become violent, they appear frequently in the histories of serial killers. Consider this. Researchers studied pairs of identical twins separated at birth. When one twin experienced severe childhood trauma and the other didn't, their brain development diverged dramatically. The timing matters too. There are critical periods in brain development when trauma has the most devastating effects. The first 3 years of life are particularly crucial for developing the neural circuits of empathy. Children who never form secure attachments with caregivers often struggle to develop normal empathy. Their brains literally don't learn how to connect emotionally with others. Physical trauma adds another layer of complexity. Many violent criminals have histories of serious head injuries, particularly to the frontal lobe. These injuries can damage the very brain regions that control aggressive impulses. But here's the crucial question. If childhood trauma is so common among killers, why don't all abused children become violent? The answer lies in resilience factors. Some children have protective elements, perhaps one caring adult, perhaps genetic factors that make them more resilient to stress. Remember, the brain's plasticity works both ways. Just as trauma can damage the developing brain, positive experiences can help repair it. This creates a disturbing possibility that serial killers aren't born monsters or simply made by circumstances alone. What if it takes both? The wrong brain meeting the wrong circumstances at exactly the wrong time. Scientists call it the biosocial model, and it's terrifying in its simplicity. Take someone born with brain abnormalities. Add severe childhood trauma. The result isn't just addition, it's multiplication. Here's the key insight. Dr. Fallon had the brain of a psychopath, but grew up in a loving family. He became a professor. Others with similar brains, but traumatic childhoods, didn't. Researchers have identified what they call protective factors: loving parents, stable homes, positive role models. These can literally prevent genetic predispositions from expressing themselves. But timing is everything. There's a critical window between ages 8 to 10 where intervention can still rewire the brain's empathy circuits. The disturbing truth? Most serial killers aren't just born bad or made bad. They're the product of the worst possible combination: vulnerable biology meeting toxic environment. In 2009, a brain scan was used as evidence in a murder trial for the first time. The defendant's lawyer argued his client's brain abnormalities reduced his culpability. This raises uncomfortable questions. If someone's brain is wired differently, are they truly responsible for their actions? Some propose screening children for dangerous brain patterns, but should we label kids as potential killers based on brain scans? The deeper question challenges the foundation of our justice system. Do we really have free will, or are we prisoners of our biology? Understanding the brain's role in violence suggests we might need to shift from punishment to treatment. But society isn't ready for that conversation. New technologies are emerging that could change everything. Real-time brain monitoring, precision genetic therapy, targeted interventions for at-risk children. Some programs are already showing promise. Children identified early and given intensive support show dramatic improvements in brain development. But with great knowledge comes great responsibility. The power to predict and prevent violence must be balanced against human rights and dignity. So, we return to where we started. Are serial killers born or made? The answer, as you now know, isn't either or. It's both. Biology and environment don't just influence each other, they create each other. But here's what gives me hope. Understanding doesn't mean accepting. Knowledge is power, the power to change course. Every child born with a high-risk brain doesn't have to become a statistic. Every traumatized kid doesn't have to repeat the cycle. We're not passive observers of human nature. We're active participants in shaping it. The same neuroplasticity that makes us vulnerable to trauma makes us capable of incredible healing. The brain that can be broken can also be rebuilt. The question isn't whether we can predict violence, it's whether we have the wisdom to prevent it. Because in the end, the most powerful force for preventing violence isn't technology or genetics or brain scans. If this journey into the mind changed how you think about human nature, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What surprised you most? What questions are you still wrestling with? And if you found this exploration valuable, sharing it helps more people understand these complex realities. Knowledge shared is power multiplied. This is the kind of deep dive we do here at Mind Solace. We go all the way down to the uncomfortable truths that make us human. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the darkest corners of human nature. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep your minds open.